Okay, we're continuing in Sefer Shoftim. We're in Perek Yud Zayin, Pasuk Hey. We've begun the Pesel Micha story, where he started off as Michayahu. He stole 1,100 gold and silver coins from his mother. The mother wanted to know what happened. He said he took them, and she said, well, they already dedicated them for religious purposes, and she wanted to make a pesel, a graven image, and initially he did not want that, but she put it into his house anyway, and it was in his house. So we move on to Pasuk Hey. Now, as the Malbim says, we find the slippery slope that Michayahu descends into. Pasuk Hey. Ish Micha lo beis Elohim. And the man Micha, so there was to him a beis Elohim, a house of idol worship. Here the word Elohim is not a holy name. It's referring to foreign gods. So here it means a house that's designated for the service of that pesel. Yeah. And once he did that, once he started to serve that pesel, so then the next thing happens, Vayas ephod u'trofim. Then he himself, as time passes, makes an ephod and trofim. An ephod, again, that religious item similar to what Yiftach made himself, either a breastplate or whatever, but some kind of physical garment that was used in this service. And trofim are things made out of figures of human beings, and you're able to have them speak through different sources of sorcery. So he's fully involved now in this house of idol worship. Vayimalei es yad achad mibanov, and he trained one of his sons, vayilo lekohen, and he became a priest for him. So in one pasuk, he's already gone into a full-blown idol-worshipping house. Now, how could such a terrible thing happen? How could somebody, not that, according to most opinions, that this is, right after Yeshua, or in the times of us, right before a Snil ben Kenaz, even during a Snil ben Kenaz, how could such a thing happen? So Pasuk Vav gives us the answer. By Yomim Haim, in these days, Ein Melech b'Yisrael, there was no king amongst the Jewish people. Ish hayoshor be'enov yaseh, each man did that which was straight in his eyes. Okay, and that's why there wasn't anybody who could protest Micha. And the Mitzudas David tells us in the name of the Seder Olam Rabbah that this happened in the days of Kushan Rishasayim, which was before Asnil ben Kenaz became the Shofet. So and we saw the terrible things that Kushan Rishasayim did to the Jewish people. So if there's no leader to enforce any law and order, so you can understand how these things can happen. And this theme gets repeated many times in these last few chapters over here. Okay, so now we've got the Pesel Micha in full operation. And even if there would be Shoftim, let's say, but the Shoftim really didn't have the executive power to stop people. A king has full authority, God-given authority. So that's when how things get out of hand, when there is no real leadership. Pasuk Zayin. Now we come to another part of the story. Vahi na'ar mi beis lechem Yehuda mi mishpachas Yehuda v'hu Levi v'hu Gorsham. There was a na'ar, a young fellow, from the house from Beis Lechem Yehuda. Now, why is it called Beis Lechem Yehuda? Because there was another Beis Lechem that was not part of Yehuda. There was another. So we want to be clear that there's a Beis Lechem that was in the tribe of Yehuda. But in spite of that, what does it say? V'hu Levi, and he's a Levi. So how is he a Levi if he's in the tribe of Yehuda? Right. It should be non-Levim in the tribe of Yehuda. So the Rabbi, number of answers to this. Rabbi says that he lived in Beis Lechem, but he himself was personally a Levi. The Levim lived all over, so he was a Levi that happened to live in Beis Lechem. The Malbim gives us another interpretation. he says from his mother's side he was from the tribe of Yehuda, but from the father's side he was a Levi. Now the Leviim did not have a portion of land, so therefore he lived. What does it say? He says V'hu Gor Sham, he lived there. So the Malbim explains he lived in the place of his mother, since from the father's side there was no place to live. And even though mothers usually don't have land, but there are certain circumstances where even mothers are given a portion of land, and therefore he's considered from the Mishpachas Yehuda, because he had his mother's, the mother had a tribal portion, so he lived with his mother, but really his father was a Levi, and he really didn't feel, as Leviim are, they don't really have their own set place, as it were. And he didn't really feel like he fit into what was going on over there. Now, this is something that is not said overtly in the text, but the Radak tells us that who was this person. So they say, as we'll see later on, we will be given his name, but the name, when it's mentioned, it's kind of covered up, and you wouldn't get it totally. It's at the end of Perek Yud Ches, Pasuk Lamed, it says his name was Yehonasan ben Gershon ben Menashe. Yehonasan, the son of Gershon, the son of Menashe. Now, if you look in your history books, you'll find there's no individual, Yehonasan, the son of Gershon, the son of Menashe. But if you look, we'll see later on, the Nun in Menashe is a little bit elevated from the other letters, as if to say that the Nun has been slipped into the word that it is in. If you take the Nun out of Menashe, you get the word Moshe. So what was that? He was a grandson of Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, exactly how that happens, we'll have to discuss. There's a lot of conflicting chazal over here that makes it difficult to understand. But he was a grandson of Moshe Rabbeinu, who was a Levi. And since he did actions, as we will see, that were like Menashe, the wicked king Menashe, so who was from Yehuda. Later on in history, we'll learn about the wicked king Menashe who was from Yehuda. So they said he was acting as if the notoriously evil man who came from Yehuda. So therefore they put a nun into his name, and to show that he was a grandson of Moshe, but in honor of Moshe, it'd be very humiliating that the Navi would write that a grandson of Moshe Rabbeinu was involved in Pesel Micha. So we make it look like his name was Menashe, but not Moshe. But to know, this was no small potatoes over here, dealing with the grandson of Moshe Rabbeinu. According to Chazal, Gemara in Bava Basra says who that was. Anyway, so here's this Levi. He lives over here. Pasuk Ches. Vayelach ha'ish meha'ir mibeis lechem Yehuda logur b'asher yimtza. So this fellow leaves home to find a place to live where he'll be able to find a place. He didn't feel this was his place per se. So he's traveling along looking for his fame and fortune. Vayovel Har Ephraim at Beis Micha. He comes to Har Ephraim, to the mountain of Ephraim, and he happens to pass by the house of Micha. Lasos Darko to make his way. In other words, this is the pathway he was going. He wants to find a good place to live, and he really was planning on just stopping off at Micha and to continue to go. He didn't really feel there was much in Har Ephraim for him to stay. So Pasuk Tes, Vayomer lo Micha. So Micha says to him, Me'ayin Tova, where are you coming from? Vayomer lo Levi Anochi mi Beis Lechem Yehuda. I'm a Levi from Beis Lechem in the tribal portion of Yehuda. Vanochi olech lo gur b'asher yimtza. I'm going to find a place to live where I will find a place to live. Pasuk Yud. Vayomer lo Micha. So Micha says to him, I'll tell you what, Shvo imadi, live with me, stay with me, and I will offer you a job. V'hayei li lo'av u'lakohen, and you will be for me as a father and as a priest. What do you mean by it? Father? Father means someone to teach me. It could be for me a teacher, and that really was the role of the Levites. The Levites and the Kohanim were meant to be the teachers of the Jewish people. You'll be for me as a father, as a Kohen, as a priest, as a religious leader. And I'll give you 10 gold pieces per year. ve'erech begodim v'chiyosecha, and I'll give you a change of clothing, and I'll give you food. And that was the offer. The Malbim says it was a three-part offer. He's saying, first of all, he's saying, why do you have to, keep going back and forth? You have no place to go. You have no real source of parnasa. Here I'm giving you a triple offer. Number one, stay with me and you're not going to have to go around anyway. You'll have a place to stay, and that's it. It's going to be your permanent place where you lodge. Number two, you're going to have a very prestigious job. You're going to be a priest. You are a Levi after all, and that's suitable for your background. Levis are servants of God. So you will work in my temple, right? And as well, you'll get wages. 10 silver pieces per year seems to have been quite a nice parnasa. And clothes, based on the type of honor that you are, and food that should be suitable for you. So you offered him good stuff. But what does the pasuk say? The end of pasuk Yud, it says, "Vayelech HaLevi," and the Levi went. He did not accept the offer. He said, "What? Being involved in idol worship? Get out of here!" But all of a sudden, pasuk Yud off. I guess after this Levi travels around a little bit. Sees there isn't a lot of fame and fortune wherever he's going. So Vayol HaLevi L'Sheves Es Ish, the Levi finally agrees to live by this person's home. Vayihi Hanar Lo Ke'achad Mibanov, and the young man becomes as one of the children of Micha. So what does that mean exactly? He agreed to stay by him, but not as an Av and a Kohen, not as a religious leader, but I'll stay in his house. He agreed to live in his house. That's what he agreed to do. That's what it says. He agreed Lo Sheves Es Ish, to live by the man, but not all the terms that he wanted. And he was like one of his sons. He ate by his table. But as we see, just like by Micha, who Micha originally refused his mother, but she said, okay, let the idol just stay in your house. And slowly, he got sucked into it. So similarly, if you live in the house of a Rasha, you get influenced by that. And then we move on to Pasuk Yud Beis and see how it goes full circle. Vayimale Micha es Yad HaLevi. Micha trains this Levi. Vayhilo Hanar LeKohen. And the young man becomes a Kohen, becomes a priest in his place. Vayihi Beveis Micha. Now he is in the house of Micha. He is totally involved in what's going on over there. Okay? So he was there all the time, because until then he was only there temporarily, and he gives him the idol worship, and he's able to engage in this Pesach. Okay. Now, here's an interesting pasuk Yud Gimel, and it's a very short parak. Vayomer Micha, and Micha says, Ato Yodati, now I know, Ki Yetiv Hashem Li, that Hashem will do good for me. And he's using Hashem's real name. Ki Hayoli HaLevi LeKohen, because now I have a Levi as a Kohen. This is not a small thing over here. I didn't have any real people of proper pedigree running my temple. But, so my son was a Kohen. He really wasn't supposed to be a Kohen. He was just a regular fellow from the tribe of Ephraim. But a Kohen, should be at least from the tribe of Levi. Now that God has providentially brought a Levi to my residence over here, I know that Hashem will do good for me because he is the right man for the job. So there's a very nice small piece from Rav Tzadok that I want to go through for a couple minutes that has a very powerful lesson for us. So it's in Hebrew, so you'll follow along with me. And I did make a lot of copies. Okay. And it's from the Tzidkas HaTzadik. This is the magnum opus of Rav Tzadok HaKohen in Os Lamed Tes. Okay, fine, just leave it. And the problem with my program in the printer is that the parentheses are backwards. So you notice whenever you see a little half parentheses, it's supposed to be turned the other way. I don't know how to fix that. That's the way it just comes out. So in Lamed Tes he says like this. He says, "Pa'amim nidme lo adam." Sometimes it appears to a person, "Sheyesh lo siyata deshmaya l'dover shehu oisa." sometimes a person feels that God is giving him divine assistance in the activity that he is involved with. He's saying, oh, Hashem is helping me. So it looks that Hashem is helping you. So he says, Al yismoch al zeh lomar shedavar tovu. Don't rely on the fact that God is helping you, that you're necessarily doing something that is good. And your false thinking is based on this. You're going to assume, Delule Kain, because if it really wasn't good, you figure, Lo Haya Kadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem wouldn't be helping me. Because we have a principle in the Talmud that says, Shirak Lavo L'tar Misayin. Gemara says, Habo L'tar, a person comes to purify himself, Hashem helps you. If you decide you really want to do something really good, and you're working hard at it, and then there's going to be times where you feel like it's not working out, Hashem will slip in and help you. So a person figures, oh, Hashem is helping me. Habo L'tar Misayin. And there's a second half to that statement of the rabbis. It says, Habo L'tamei, someone who comes to make himself impure, it just says, Paisimo, they open the door for him, but they don't help him. It's a famous rule. If you want to do something, the general rule of the Talmud is, you want to do something that's really good, and you really mean it, and you're really sincere, and how do we know that? That you're giving it all your effort. Then it comes to a point where you figure, I don't know how this is going to work. Hashem will step in and actively help you. On the other hand, you want to do something bad, Hashem will not actively help you, but He'll leave the door open that you're going to be capable of doing it on your own. There's a subtle difference between the two. So the person figures like this. We'll read it again inside. He figures, well, Shirak Lavo L'tar Misayin Oso. Only when a person comes to purify himself does he get help. But when you want to make yourself impure, it only says Rak Paisimo. The door's open. V'lo Misayin, you don't get any help. So therefore, when a person is doing something, and he sees that Hashem is really helping him accomplish what he needs to help, person may be fooled into thinking, I must be doing the right thing for sure. Because if I wasn't doing the right thing, Hashem would not be helping me. He only opens the door but doesn't actively help me. So he says, don't rely on that. To make kol makom, still in all, Pa'amim, there are times, yesh delanisoyen siyahu, that Hashem is assisting you and it's all part of the test. Ukayotze, or similarly like that, like it says by Micha in Shoftim, Perek Yud Zayin, Pasuk Gimel, that we've done just now. Sha'amar, in brackets it says, right? Sha'amar ato yadati ki eitiv Hashem. He says, now I know that Hashem will help me. And the Shem Zeh, and the name he uses over there, it's Behavaya, the Yud Hey Vav Hey name. Shu Kadosh, which is a holy name, as we find in Masechah Shavuos. I don't know what that word li is going over there. What does he say? Ki haya li halevi l'kohen, because he says, I have a Levi as a Kohen. He's saying, he says, Ki yetiv Hashem li. Hashem is doing good to me. Okay, Ki yetiv Hashem li. Ki haya li halevi l'kohen. Now I have a Levi for a Kohen. Ula heitiv lo, and to do good for him. In other words, he misunderstood the fact that the Levi goes by him. He says, whoa, wow, Hashem is helping me. I needed to have a real good spiritual leader over here. So look what Hashem, He sends him right to me. I didn't have to look for him. I didn't put an ad in the newspaper. He sends him right to me. That's God helping me completely. So, Amnam Chazal Amru B'Tona Dvei Eliyahu Seder Eliyahu Rab, etc., etc. But our rabbis tell us, and we'll elaborate on this more next week. He says, Ki Micha kafar b'anochi. That Micha was a denier of the Anochi, the first commandment. I am the Lord. He was a denier of that. In another place that we'll go through next week. V'yartishu kfir b'shorish Yisraeli. That he denied in what the root of every Jew believes in. That what? That Hashem is the all-powerful spiritual God. And look there in great detail. We explain what mistake he made. I mean, he believed in Hashem, but basically he believed that Hashem has a physical manifestation. He believed there was a physical aspect to God, and that you cannot believe in. Right? So, v'rak b'kael, and only in people like these, nimtza, we find zemishu hu chas b'shom sherish pervelash. You find someone, God forbid, is cutting himself off from the root and making a very bitter root. In other words, we will see what the exact form of idol worship he did, but he was into serious mistaken notions about what it means to serve Hashem. Right? So, what is he proving over here? He's saying the fact that Hashem helped him, you figure, oh, then he must be doing something good. But no, it was outright clear. It was outright heresy. No different than Christian heresy. Right? Believing that there is some kind of physical manifestation to God. There's a physical representation of God in this world, which is a total corruption of what God is. So this is terrible. What he did was terrible, and yet Hashem helped him. So don't fool yourself into thinking that since Hashem helps you, that's a proof that what you're doing must be good. Because we see by Micha that he was doing the worst thing in the world, and Hashem was helping him.
Well, let the door open.
No, not let the door open.
He helped him.
He sent the Levi right to him. Let the door open means that he's looking around and he's able to find someone. That's leaving the door open.
How do we explain that?
We said it's a test. It could be as a test or whatever other reasons Hashem has. Generally, it's true. Generally, Hashem will help you because you're doing something that's good. Truthfully, if you are trying to make yourself holy, Hashem will help you. Doesn't exclude the fact that there are times when you want to make yourself impure. Hashem, to ratchet up the test, will help you too. To fool you, to think you're doing the right thing. So you might think, so a person might think, again, let me read that last line again. So you could say, well, rak b'ke'ela. Well, maybe with these kinds of people, Hashem, making a test. He says, no, atu anan miya dina mehecha kasinan. But do we know where we really come from? In other words, how do we know that we're coming from such a good place? So you have to be careful that whenever you're involved in certain activities and you see that things are working out for you, it doesn't necessarily go, oh, it's bashert, oh, look at the signs, oh, you see Hashem likes what's going on over here. That doesn't mean anything. It could mean Hashem's very upset with you.
Wow.
Very upset with you. Oh, very good. How are you supposed to know this? You have all kinds of scenarios. Let's say parents really have a child that they really should be sending to a very good and proper Jewish day school and a Jewish high school where they teach Yiras Shamayim and they really teach them properly. And they send the kid to another school that's not really worthy of this child. And the kid is fabulously successful. You say, oh, see? It was a good thing we sent our kid to this school because look how good he's doing. You have to be very careful that God's giving you this as a test. Be very, very careful. A person decides, he doesn't want to give tzedakah. He decides to cheat in business, and everything is going fabulously successful. So it's a siman from Shemayim that I'm doing the right thing. It was a good idea for me not to give tzedakah. It was a good idea for me to do this and this. Guy engaged in a type of business that's not ethical. Oh, this is siman from Shemayim. It's a wonderful thing to do. He says it's only a test. So you're going to say, what's a person to do? So look what he ends off. He says, "Va'etz lazeh." The only advice I can give you is tefillah v'tachanunim, prayers and supplications, l'rachamei shemayim, to have mercy from heaven. Hamo'ilim lahafech gam hasheresh, that's able to overturn the bad root. K'moshen isbar b'makam acher, as we explained in another pasuk in Tehillim, where we say, Leiv tahor baro li Elokim. Hashem created in me a pure heart. What does that mean? The bria b'chol makam ainu yesh me'ayin. Bria means to create something from nothing. In other words, what he's saying is there's certain people who have bad roots. For whatever reason, Hashem gives you a bad root. Hashem gives you a big Yetzer Hara. Hashem, your role in life is that Hashem has given you a big Yetzer Hara in a certain area. Your job is to overcome it, and you naturally go along the path that the Yetzer Hara tells you to do, and there could be not good things. And Hashem, may even give you siyata d'shmai, may even give you help in these bad things. He's saying Micha came from such a bad root. In other words, Micha was what he was, as Reb Tzadok will explain later, because of the history that he went through.
So
He was the kind of person that the way he came into this world was with certain spiritually negative aspects. He was born that way.
We have to discuss this further because
He was born that way. And his
Isn't that
challenge
from
in
Hashem?
life is Hashem gives you the challenge.
No, but isn't that from Hashem the way he was born?
That's right, but you have the ability just as much to overcome it.
Let's be quiet.
We are all born, no one in this room has been born perfect.
Right.
We are born with challenges. We're born with negative aspects that have to be corrected. Now, his was a very severely negative aspect. It was idol worship. To get into a physical orientation of the world where you take even spiritual concepts and couch them in physicality. And that because he saw the world in a physical way. We'll explain why he did that. So he had a bad root. Now, you can't, so to speak, blame him, as it were, for thinking that way, because he has that orientation to think that way. But Hashem did give enough things for him to realize that he shouldn't think that way. We'll all explain the details, but the idea is a very important idea. That you never know what your orientation is. And you think, based on the way my schema of life, schema is very important. Schema is all the things in your life history that leads you to the point to come to make certain determinations of what are important things in your life or not. For example, if you're raised in a home 100 years ago in the deep south, right, in a rich plantation, you think that all people whose skin color is black are stupid idiots and slaves. That's what you were taught. So you believe that that's the way they are. That's your schema. It's wrong, and your challenge is to overcome that. So schema comes from many ways. He had a schema that was a bad schema. Right. And his challenge would be, what was his point like when the mother says, here's the pesel? He says, Ima, no. And he said no in the beginning, but he gave in, said, stay with no. But he slipped in, he slowly slipped. And then what does Hashem do? He even makes it to show how successful he can be. So he says, Ay, Baruch Hashem. And he said Hashem's real name because he really believed this was for Hashem. So it wasn't that he straight up was an idol worshiper like anybody else. He believed for Hashem. So you have to be oh so careful that when you see success in life, when you're involved in, certain paths that you're going in, don't be fooled into thinking it's the right path. And the problem is you think that's proving you're on the right path. It says you got to mamish daven to Hashem that He should turn your neshama over to be able to change what's going inside because you want to do what's right in Hashem's eyes. You have to pray and tell Hashem, I hope I'm doing the right thing. I hope it's the right thing. Now certainly you would want to go to some sage counsel from rabbis and holy people to get their feedback on this, certainly. But certainly to pray to Hashem that He should give you the insight to realize if you're doing the right thing or not. That is what Micha did not do, and that's certainly the lesson that we learn from that. Okay.